Today, let's talk about what to do if your GMAT score goes down. Obviously, this is a terrible situation that comes with a lot of terrible feelings, and no one wants this to happen, but it happens quite a bit. And it even happened to me multiple times, if you can believe that, back when I was studying, and I felt terrible. I felt like quitting. I felt like I wasn't good enough or smart enough or hardworking enough, all those things. And the good news is that none of that was true. I just didn't have an accurate map of the situation. So that's what I'm going to give you today, so that in the event that you do, or that you have seen a score decrease, you can get it turned around and reach your goal faster. Let's go. The number one reason people see score decreases is that they are taking too many practice exams, but not learning enough from each practice exam before they take the next test. There are a lot of reasons that people take too many practice exams without learning enough in between them, but the top two by far are number one, just bad advice. Other people telling them to take a lot of practice exams. This comes from people who don't know what they're talking about, or people who are super smart, natural test takers who just took a bunch of practice exams and got a super high score. That's great for them, but you might have a different set of challenges. I certainly did back in the day. So we want to handle those challenges properly. The second reason that people take too many practice exams is they're thinking that taking practice exams makes them better. Look, if you're taking a lot of practice exams and your score is going up every single time, stop listening to this episode. That's actually a super rare situation though. It's extremely rare to just take practice tests and see consistent improvement, because practice tests measure your skills. They don't necessarily increase them. That's really important, and it is not discussed nearly enough. But it sounds illogical. That I think is a problem. It makes sense because in other situations, doing something a lot usually does make you better. That's what really messes with people in this situation. You're used to just brute forcing something and just wearing it down with a lot of reps. And that works great in a wide variety of situations. In fact, that is the way to go in a lot of difficult situations in life, but it rarely works with the GMAT. So if you're talking to your friends or your coworkers or other people you've networked with at business school, and they're like, "Oh, I just took a few practice tests across a couple weeks and then I got a 785," then they're probably just super naturally talented. It's like the person who goes and becomes a professional athlete without ever working out in their life. Like those people are just genetically gifted. They won the genetic lottery with intelligence and test taking, and that's amazing. That's amazing. Life is beautiful in a lot of different ways, and it takes all different kinds of people to make the world go round. And there's many places for those people, but there's also many places for you if you're not that kind of person. Like I said, obviously things worked out for me. I was not that person. It took a lot of work and a lot of self-reflection and a lot of strategizing for me to finally get across the finish line with this test. And that's part of the reason I'm still doing this. Is I know there's a lot of you out there who are not that naturally gifted person, but you have a tremendous amount to contribute to the business community. You're going to be an incredible business leader, or you're already an incredible business leader and you're just going to the next level. And the only thing bottlenecking you is you just don't understand how to study for the GMAT. And that's a very fixable problem, in my opinion. So let's keep the discussion going in that spirit. Instead, you want to think about taking practice tests like working out. You don't get stronger during the workout. During the workout, you're actually stressing your body, and then it's during your rest time and your recovery time that you build up resilience. And with practice exams, it's your review process between the exams, after the exam, and your targeted study based on that review. That's what drives the improvement. It's not just sitting there taking a lot of practice exams. Again, that just rarely works. I would say it's far less than 1/100th of a percent of people who just take a lot of tests and get a great score. Now, I've found that a lot of providers give bad advice about how to review practice exams, and that's really unfortunate. So if you've been following your provider's advice and it hasn't been working, here's a good, simple framework that you can use to review well. In each section, you want to pick one thing that you think will improve your score the most. So by each section, I mean one thing in quant, one thing in verbal, one thing in data insights. So in quant, it might be timing, or it might be your algebra skills, or something like that. In verbal, it might be something like critical reasoning, strengthened questions. The way to figure out what this top area is quite simple. You just ask yourself what thing that if you could instantly fix it, like wave a magic wand and you would instantly be better at it, what one thing in the section would turn the most number of wrong questions into right questions? Just think about it on that super, super basic level. So if I could wave a magic wand and magically turn as many of these red things into green things as I can, what topic or what area would I wave that magic wand for? Just keep it simple. Just figure out that one top single area in each one of the three sections, and that'll give you a top three areas that are likely to move your score the most. Then get a copy of the official guide for GMAT review if you don't have one already, and do all the questions in those three areas. Every single question in those three areas. So if it's all of critical reasoning, you got a lot of questions to do. If it's critical reasoning strengthened questions, you'll have slightly fewer questions to do. If it's algebra questions, you're going to have a lot of questions to do. If it's timing, I'll give you some guidance on time sets in a little bit. Don't do these questions as a set unless you're working on timing. If you're working on a content area like algebra, review after every single problem. If you've already done all the official guide questions, a simple web search for another question bank should work out just fine. And feel free to reach out to us if you're not sure how to find one or you're striking out finding a good one. We're just at the GMAT strategy on current social channels if you like to DM, or you can email us at contact, CONTACT, at thegmatstrategy.com. Once you've got these top three areas, you want to spend 80% of your study time working equally on those three. So you take 80% of your time, 1/3 of that 80% goes to your top quant area, 1/3 of that 80% goes to your top verbal area, 1/3 of that 80% goes to your top DI area. And then you spend 20% of your time, the remaining 20% that you're not spent on those three areas, just maintaining every other topic. Again, split 80% of your study time evenly between the top three focus areas and split 20% of your time evenly amongst everything else. So keep it simple. Use a timer on your phone to make sure that you're sticking to that 80-20 balance, okay? So if you're sitting down for a 60-minute study session, about 45 of that is going to be on your top three, and then about 15 of that is going to be on everything else. Okay, so if you only have 15 minutes to work on everything else, you're maybe doing like one reading comp passage and one question, maybe like one multi-source reasoning and one question. Then you're doing maybe like one two-part analysis, one data sufficiency, and then that'll free you up to spend your 80% time on your top three focus areas. And what that's going to do is it's going to make sure that you're growing your skills between exams. And skills are what move your scores. If you're unsure why your score is not moving, it's a skills problem. You don't have the skills to get the score every single time the way you want to see it on the test. Okay, we'll go deeper on this in a minute, but that's the real driver, and that's why taking so many practice tests is the problem. You're often just hoping the score is going to come through, when in reality you want to be focusing on your inputs more. What are your skills? Have you meaningfully increased your skill set prior to this next practice exam? Now, how do you know? How do you know if you've meaningfully increased your skills? You'll know that you're good enough when you can get 80% or better accuracy and 2 minutes and 15 seconds average time or faster across all the difficulty ranges for your top three. Then you're ready for another practice exam, okay? That's if you're using the MBA.com material. So on the MBA.com official guide stuff, you got easy, medium, and hard. You should be able to get 80% or better accuracy with 2:15 average time or less across all the difficulty ranges for whatever those top three focus areas are. And if you're not hitting that, then it's unlikely that your score is going to move on the next exam. So this will prevent you from taking too many practice tests too soon. You've got actual metrics now where you can look at the metrics and say, am I ready for another practice test or not? Well, am I getting 80% or better accuracy and 2 minutes and 15 seconds average time per question or less across all the difficulty ranges on these three topics in the official guide? If I am, great, ready for the next practice test. If I'm not, I got to stay at the desk and I got to just confront the resistance that I might have to working on my skills and stop just hoping that I'm going to see the score on the practice test if I sort of just rip the Band-Aid off and do it. That's good for the first practice test, ripping the Band-Aid off. But after that, it's very, very unlikely that just taking a test is going to be a good thing. Much, much better to focus on moving your skills. And again, if you move your skills, you move the scores. Now, if you, again, can't reach those metrics, very unlikely that you're going to see the score move, probably going to be a waste of time to take another practice exam. So I know that can be harsh. I know that can be hard to challenge yourself to get to that level, and it might take a little bit longer than you want it to, but it's going to pale in comparison to the pain of seeing your score go down. And I can tell you that with a great deal of authority because I know that pain better than most. And I speak with tons of people every year whose scores have gone down, and I'm still trying to forget what that felt like. And it is not easy to forget those feelings, everybody. So I highly recommend avoiding those feelings completely by taking the advice that I'm giving you here, trying to make it simple and actionable for you. Okay, so if you stick to those metrics across all difficulty levels on whatever platform you're using, so that if you're using free platforms, you can go 80%, 2 minutes and 15 seconds across all difficulty ranges in that segment. If you're using the official guide, which I highly recommend, then you're going to go across all easy, medium, and hard. Okay, what you can do is when you take the next practice test, you can just repeat that process. Now, again, if your prep provider has a good system that when you stick to it between practice exams, it's working for you, then use their system. This is just a simple system if you don't have a framework like that. And if you're self-studying and you've been trying to use some of the frameworks out there and they haven't been working for you, okay, this will work. Number one reason people's scores go down is too many practice tests without enough study in between. The second biggest reason people see score drops is that they don't have a consistent process for managing time. And I mean time during the section. If you run out of time at the end of a section, it doesn't matter how good your other skills are. You're going to get a significant penalty for not finishing the section. We're talking up to 50 points on the overall score from leaving one question blank at the end of one of the 3 sections. Okay, there's a massive, massive penalty for leaving questions blank at the end. So don't let yourself run out of time. The key to this is to have some very simple checkpoints that you use during this section. I've found that there are some better and worse checkpoints for different types of folks. What's important is that you have checkpoints that work for you. A simple checkpoint system could be 10 minutes for every 5 questions. If you don't have any checkpoints right now, just use that. 10 minutes for every 5 questions. Keep it simple. If you're within 2 minutes of that checkpoint, you're probably okay on time. Keep it simple, keep it easy to take action on. And if you're behind, you know you need to speed up or just let go of some questions. And then if you're ahead, you can relax a little bit. Okay, if you track your time at regular intervals through the section, it's extremely unlikely that you're going to run out of time at the end of the section. Because if I check at question 5 and I'm behind, I have an opportunity to catch up. If I check at question 10 and I'm behind, I have an opportunity to catch up. If I check at 15 and I'm behind, I have an opportunity to catch up. And then in the end of the section, you can just check the clock after every single question to make sure that even if you're in a worst case scenario where you've got 30 seconds and 3 questions left, you can just bubble A all the way to the end. And just make sure you hit confirm before the section times out. Because if you don't hit confirm before the section times out, it's the same as leaving it blank. Keep in mind that most people find it really, really difficult to complete all the questions in the given time. So don't worry if it's a challenge. It feels really hard for most of us, and it's a challenge that's totally overcomable. You've definitely overcome much more difficult things in your life as a human being on planet Earth than this is. I'm not saying it's going to be easy for you, but I'm saying it's doable. And if you have to just sit there and force yourself to do it through brute force, repetition of timed sets, then don't be afraid to do that. You can use the MBA.com set builder. You can use other platform set builders. You can make a 20 question DI set. You can make a 20 question quant set, put 45 minutes on the clock, or if you have extended time accommodations, whatever the case may be. And then just practice those checkpoints and practice letting go of questions or speeding up if you're behind. And eventually you'll calibrate yourself to the point where you can finish the section on time. And it's a big reason people see score drops because they improve their skills. Then they're more excited to get credit for those skills. So they overinvest on the early questions in the section, and then they run out of time earlier and earlier in the section as they take more practice tests. That was a big problem that I had back in the day. So first I would run out of time while answering the last question. Then I would run out of time with one question blank. Then I'd run out of time with two questions blank because I kept spending more and more time at the beginning of the section because I had more and more knowledge that I wanted to get credit for. And that's a very, very vicious negative cycle. You want to get out of that cycle as quickly as possible. And that's a simple, simple way to do it. Just make some simple checkpoints for yourself. If you're not sure what checkpoints to use, just use 10 minutes for every 5 questions. And just put in the reps until you can manage your time better. The third biggest reason people see score drops is that they don't have a consistent method for getting the questions they know how to do right. And if you've been following the pod for a while, you've heard me talk about this a lot. I know this might sound a little crazy, but if you've been studying for a long time, you probably already know how easy it is to miss questions you know how to solve. It happens for a wide variety of reasons, like misreading, making calculation mistakes, all kinds of other things that are similar to that. And the key is to have a consistent method for deleting those mistakes. What I see most often is people just tell themselves not to make that mistake anymore, and that usually doesn't work. Usually doesn't work very well. Okay, like think about if you've ever ate too much or drank too much, and you're like telling yourself, "Oh, I'll never do that again." And then what happens? If you're like most people, unless you take serious, serious action to build a new habit or stop the old habit, that habit is just going to keep coming back. Okay, so try to be very, very, very honest with yourself. If you made the mistake once, it's highly likely you're going to make it again unless you have a major intervention in the moment. So there are a lot of good systems for tracking these questions that you know how to do but get wrong. But a really simple one that you can implement today if you don't have the fancy spreadsheets or the fancy programs or the tutors who spent, 300 hours making their error log or whatever these folks are doing. All due respect to that, by the way. There's a time and a place for that kind of approach. But if you don't have access to that, a simple way to do it is just have a piece of paper or a note card on your desk at all times. And on it, just list the key habits you need to implement to avoid missing questions you know. Again, just have a piece of paper on the desk 100% of your time. If your studying is all digital, have it as your background screen or your desktop, or just name a file on your desktop, all the things that you need to do, or have a note showing there. And just make sure you see it many, many, many times as you go through every single study session. Because the key to building the new habit is a lot of reminding yourself to do the new habit. Most of us need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. We already know the things that we should be doing. We're just not reminding ourselves to do them enough. Really, really valuable. Really simple too. I mean, comically simple. So a couple examples. Maybe the first habit is take notes as I read questions, something like that, or like double check each step of my computation. If you've listened to our Real GMAT problem series, you'll hear me talk about that a lot. Things like simple new habits like that tend to work really, really well. And just update the list over time as needed. As habits become automatic, you can take them off, you can reprioritize other habits. But the key is if you're not seeing those habits multiple times per study session, it's very unlikely that they're going to become the new habit. It's just old habits are really hard to break. That's the top 3 right there. Taking too many practice tests too soon without studying enough in between them, not having a consistent way to manage your time, so you're running out of time at the end of sections. You see big score drops that way. And then you don't have a consistent way to stop missing questions you know how to do, and that's where you see a lot of score fluctuations, where like sometimes you'll score really high, sometimes you'll score really low, next test is really high again. That's enough to drive you crazy. So focus on those top 3 if you're not already crazy focused on those. 2 more things that are huge. If you're not having time trouble and you're not missing very many questions you know how to do for more obvious reasons like reading or writing mistakes like we were just talking about, and you can prove to yourself that you know the material at a high level, like with the 80%, 2 minutes and 15-second thing I was telling you about, then stress during the exam can be a big factor. This is definitely a deep topic. I'm not going to go all the way to the bottom of this right now. Because test anxiety is a very, very real thing. It's not easy or fun to deal with, but the good news is that you can totally deal with it and you can reduce its negative impact. There's a lot I could say about this, but here are 2 quick recommendations that I've seen work super well. And then if you want to go further with this, we have like a specific episode on test anxiety from, I think maybe 5-6 years ago. You can search the feed if you like. But I would start with these two, okay? So start by reading a book called Performing Under Pressure by Weisinger and Fry. Weisinger and Fry, Fry. I believe they both have MBAs. They're both current business consultants or former business consultants, and they have very good, very relevant like business type examples for high stress situations and a lot of really, really valuable advice about decreasing your level of stress in regards to negative performance impact. We may never be able to delete the stress completely of taking the GMAT, and that might not even be a good thing. A certain amount of stress and vigilance during the exam is probably helping your performance. But if you've struggled with test anxiety, then you know that as soon as you go beyond a certain point, it's extremely counterproductive and it's very difficult to get out of that negative loop. So this book is really, really helpful for that. There's tons of advice in the book. So again, I encourage you to read it. But if you need a quick fix and you don't have time to read the book, one great golden nugget out of it is every time you start thinking about the result of the exam or the result of the question you're working on, like, am I going to get this right? Or am I getting the score? Or am I doing well on this right now? Anytime you're thinking about the result, you're focusing on the outcome. But focusing on your outcome does not improve your results. The only thing that improves your results is focusing on your process. So what you want to do is you want to use any outcome thinking as a trigger to refocus on your process, also known as executing well. Great execution will definitely improve your score. Obsessing about the outcome, extremely unlikely to improve the score. And yet it's very natural to obsess about the outcome. So again, you use outcome thinking as a trigger. When you realize you're thinking about whether the question's going well, when you realize you're thinking like, what kind of score am I getting right now? Am I going to get the score? I'm never going to get the score. I never should have taken the test today. I'm not getting into business school. Like when you get into those loops, that's outcome thinking. And what you do is you use that as a trigger to refocus on good execution. Ask yourself questions like, am I writing things down properly on this question? Am I answering the right question right now? Let me go back and reread the question. Do I have the right objective? Do I not have a strategy on this question and I should just let go of it? Just refocus on good execution. Basically, if you flip the anxiety from being a distractor to being a trigger to help you focus more on the execution piece, that will help your performance instead of harming it. Now, the bad news is that only works if your condition is not super severe. So if your condition is super severe, this may not work. But I found it really, really valuable. Even if you have a lot of trouble with test anxiety, it's a good tip. It'll probably help, but it may not be 100% solution to the anxiety and the performance issues, okay? So if your situation is very severe and you're having a lot of trouble fixing it on your own, I highly recommend getting some professional help. It's an investment. It'll pay off for the rest of your career. Even in the MBA program and after the MBA, you're highly likely to face very, very tense and difficult situations that can promote a lot of anxiety. If all you need is a few sessions with someone who can help you handle pressure or stress better, that's going to be more than worth it in 99% of cases. In order to find these professionals, I'd recommend just using your network. Ask people you trust. Hey, I've got this issue. Do you know anybody who can help me out? Do you know anybody else who's faced this? Are there any professionals that you know who I can get in touch with and talk to? See if you can get a personal reference. If that doesn't work, just do some initial consultations with some folks after a web search. Pick someone you think can help you and just put in the time. Execute on their advice. Be faithful with the homework they give you. And it's an unfortunate problem for sure, and no one wants to have to deal with it. But the key is recognizing it's a problem like any other problem. There is a solution if you work on it properly. Okay, so test anxiety is super real. I highly recommend the book Performing Under Pressure. If you go through that book and you're still having a lot of trouble, I really recommend getting some professional help. Very, very worth it. If you just do the quick math on the ROI on your MBA and the amount you're going to invest in getting it, I think you'll find that a few sessions with a good anxiety professional is going to be more than worth it. The last issue that's surprisingly common is you might be using the wrong program. Sometimes it's a situation where everybody means well and it's just not a fit. It's not that the platform is good or bad. It's just that every platform has its own approach And that may not be the right approach for your learning style or your performance style or even your timeline. Some programs want you to do a whole year on the platform before you even take a practice test. And that's awesome if you have 2 years to prepare. It's probably going to work out great. But it's not so great if you've got 2 months to prepare or 2 weeks to prepare. So, first things first is if you are in a program and you're not sure whether it's a bad fit, then you want to look at your own execution first. If you're not executing well on the advice they're giving you, try to figure out why. If it's because you don't like the platform or the approach, that's a good opportunity to switch providers. And there's many, many, many providers in the space. I go through a whole list of them in the How to Start Your GMAT Studies in 2026 episode. Just did it a couple weeks ago. So feel free to check that out if you're not sure what providers are going to be a good fit for you or if you need to switch it up. We also have a episode called How to Switch GMAT Providers if you want some more detailed advice on that. It's a really, really common thing, unfortunately common. And yeah, if you have to do it, it's not fun, but it's a heck of a lot more fun than failing at the process and not getting the score that you want. Let's just put it that way, okay? I had to switch providers twice back in the day when I was working on this, and it was a huge bummer. Tons of time and energy down the drain, tons of cash down the drain. But at the end of the day, it was important enough to me to get the win, and just had to deploy some perseverance there. You can do the same, and you don't have to love it. Don't have to love it. It's a one-time thing. Now, if you're not executing because of something that's more about you, and you do believe in their approach, then you want to take a look at your own discipline, your own willpower, and your own like consistency habits. Because sometimes it's not the provider. Sometimes you're just not doing what they're telling you to do, and that's in your control. Now, I would say that's rare, but because most of you are really high functioning, like really motivated, hardcore people. But if you're having trouble with your discipline or your consistency, just search our audio feed or video feed for discipline. We've got a great episode on how to build your discipline, specifically related to the GMAT, and we've got a great episode on how to become more consistent in general. It's called How to Score High Consistently on the GMAT. In general, if you're executing well on what a program's telling you to do and your score is not improving, it's time to switch. It's just not a fit. It doesn't mean anybody's a bad person or anything like that. It's just you've got a job to do and the job's not getting done. So you got to find another path, okay? At least do yourself a favor and do some research on other options out there. And feel free to message us if you need help with that and you're not sure how to make the choice. In fact, just so you know it's there, we introduced a free service a few years back where you can actually book a call with us and speak live, and we'll help you make a good decision about how to switch providers and about how to move forward if you're not having success with your current approach. Again, like I said, that was the situation I was in many years ago after failing with 2 different programs. And you can imagine how that felt real bad. Like I said at the top of the episode, let's just leave it at that. And I don't want any of you to have to deal with that alone, like I did. So if that sounds helpful, you can just go to the website. It's thegmatstrategy.com. You can check out our free video to learn a little bit more about our approach. And then from there, you'll be able to share a little bit more about your situation and book the call if you're still interested. If you watch the video and you're not feeling our approach, that's fine. Don't have to get on the call. And if you're just not interested in this for whatever reason, or you don't need that kind of help, that's totally fine too. I just want you to know it's there in case you're struggling with it and if it sounds like it'd be helpful for you. Finally, if you want to work with us directly and you're interested in our products and services, we're happy to talk through that and what a custom program with us would look like for you. We don't have any cookie cutter one size fits all programs. Everything we do is customized for the individual. So there's no expectation that if you book a call with us that you're going to ask about our programs. In fact, we rarely bring them up unless you specifically ask about them. But I do want you to know it's an option if you want more extensive help after the call, because the call is a one-time thing. And if you're like, man, that was really helpful and I'd like to keep working with these guys, then that is an option. But if you just want help switching programs and you're not interested in working with us, that's cool too. We'll just give you some free advice on the call, set you up with a plan. You can go on your merry way and send us an email in a little bit and say, wow, that was awesome. Thank you so much. Now I have my score and I'm on to the next thing. Okay. So we do it for free because, again, it didn't exist when I needed it. And that cost me months and months and months of life and tons of pain and suffering. Definitely almost gave up a few times. And my life would have been measurably worse if I had given up, and I don't want you guys to give up. Again, you have a lot to contribute. I know like some people look at MBAs and they think they're all super selfish. That's not the case. In my experience, most people are super well-meaning, super generous, like really good-hearted people. I mean, yeah, they want to, they also want to be successful themselves for a bunch of reasons, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's not like, yeah, it's just a really important thing that all of you guys get to the next level with your career. And like I said, it's a super fixable problem. If the only thing that's bottlenecking you is your GMAT score, let's just get that handled. Okay. Again, no need to take advantage of any of those services, the free or the paid, but they're there if you want them. Those are the main reasons scores don't go up. Taking too many practice exams too close to each other, not learning enough in between them, not having a consistent approach to timing, not having a consistent approach for deleting questions you know how to do but you're getting wrong, test anxiety, and then using the wrong plan or the wrong program or the wrong system. Those are the top 5 reasons that people's scores don't go up. And if you audit all 5 of those things, then you should now have the tools and the resources after this episode to get it turned around in a way that feels good to you. Gave you a bunch of different options for turning that stuff around. So sometimes scores go down. Obviously, it's terrible when it happens. There's no way to delete the negative emotions around that, but you can delete the fact that your score is going down, and you can make it go up by executing on one or more of the things I just talked to you about. As always, my greatest hope is that this material will make your studies as easy and as painless as they can possibly be. If you want more tips and strategies for optimizing your performance on the GMAT, please head to our website, thegmatstrategy.com, which is linked in the description of this content, and check out our free video on how to reach your dream GMAT score in half the normal time. In the meantime, this is a regular show, so please subscribe if you like it, and please stay positive and stay consistent with your studies. Talk to you all soon.